Today is Tuesday, June 3rd. We're talking about how immigration officials are stepping up enforcement, even in the face of backlash. Also, what a suspect has told investigators about his flamethrower attack in Colorado this week. Plus, where tourists had to run from a volcanic eruption. What's included in a first-of-its-kind reparations package. And why one of the biggest names in podcasting is hanging up the mic. Those stories and even more news coming up.
Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this.
American immigration officials are now having to defend their tactics as arrests surge around the country. San Diego's mayor is among those who has criticized Immigrations and Customs Enforcement recently. He said he was deeply upset by an ICE operation at a popular Italian restaurant just before the dinner rush on Friday. Things got chaotic as customers and witnesses shouted, and agents used flashbang devices while wearing heavy tactical gear. ICE's acting director defends agents suiting up, saying, quote, "I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is." ICE is also facing criticism for arresting immigrants at their scheduled immigration hearings, with advocates saying families are being targeted at their most vulnerable time, just when they believe there's progress in their legal cases. Advocacy groups have been circulating emotional videos showing ICE agents arresting families with young children inside courthouses. At the same time, ICE has published mugshots of some arrested immigrants who have serious criminal records. In fact, just yesterday, it announced the largest ICE operation ever that resulted in nearly 1,500 arrests in Massachusetts. Nearly 800 people arrested had already been charged with crimes, and ICE says they included murderers, rapists, and drug traffickers. Now authorities say they can and will do more, scaling up operations in the weeks and months ahead. We have an update to the story we told you about yesterday out of Boulder, Colorado, where a man was arrested for throwing Molotov cocktails. Since then, we found out the man is an Egyptian national who came to the U.S. on a tourist visa back in 2022. It allowed him to stay in the country for 6 months, and once he was here, he applied for asylum, but had not received a final decision on his application. This is a familiar story since the nonpartisan Center for Migration Studies says more than 40% of undocumented immigrants in the country now flew in with a visa, passed inspection, then overstayed. In the Boulder attack, 12 people were hurt, including 8 who had to be taken to the hospital to be treated for burns. Yesterday, the suspect was charged with a federal hate crime. He's also facing attempted murder charges and more. The FBI says he told investigators he had been planning an attack for a year, and he apparently wanted to kill all Zionist people, in reference to the movement to establish and protect a Jewish state in Israel. He apparently tried to buy a gun, but couldn't get one since he wasn't an American citizen. So he told investigators he did research on YouTube and made more than a dozen incendiary devices in hopes of throwing them at pro-Israel demonstrators. He only threw out 2 of them, telling investigators he got scared in the moment, but prosecutors say he also told them he had no regrets and would go back and do it again. His next court hearing is set for this Thursday. Another round of peace talks between Russia and Ukraine have again ended without a major breakthrough, though the two sides did reach a deal to swap more prisoners of war and fallen soldiers. The talks lasted just over an hour. Ukraine says it's insisting on an unconditional ceasefire for at least 30 days on land, at sea, and in the air. But the Russian team says it had proposed a 2- or 3-day truce just in certain areas of the front line. On a wider scale, Russia is demanding international recognition that Russia owns all the land it seized. It also wants a ban on Ukraine's membership in any military alliances, wants to limit the size of the Ukrainian army, make Ukraine adopt Russian as an official language, and it wants international sanctions against Russia lifted. Whereas Ukraine is actually calling for more international sanctions against Russia and for all of its territory to be returned. So bottom line, there was not much more to talk about. Now, President Trump says he's open to a 3-way summit with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin, quote, if it comes to that. Europe's tallest volcano has erupted again. An eruption at Italy's Mount Etna sent clouds of gas, rock, and ash billowing into the sky yesterday. Videos on social media show hikers running down the mountain, and plumes rise for miles overhead. It's actually a popular tourist spot, despite there being frequent eruptions there. And the Volcanic Ash Advisory Center quickly issued a code red yesterday. Tremors from the eruption were felt in towns and villages nearby, but thankfully there were no reports of anyone getting hurt. And it seems the volcanic activity is now decreasing. Though Sicily's president still says it's a phenomenon that we are following with extreme caution. We have more news for you in just a moment, but first, thanks to our sponsor, ZocDoc. If you're taking time out of your busy schedule to see a doctor, you want that doctor to know what they're talking about and make you feel seen and heard. If that's not what you're getting, it might be time to find someone new. And thanks to ZocDoc, your search just got easier. Whether you want to find some relief from allergy season right now, or deal with a new issue, or just get a checkup, ZocDoc can help. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. ZocDoc has doctors across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, primary care to urgent care, and more. My favorite thing about it is that you can filter for not only your location, but also your insurance. I find that really convenient. Plus, appointments made through ZocDoc happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. FEMA has reportedly decided to scrap its new hurricane response plan now that hurricane season has already started. Instead, reports say the agency is reverting to last year's guidance, even though it's now contending with cuts to its program and workforce. So there is some confusion. For example, FEMA's hurricane guidance typically includes plans for staffers going door to door to help storm survivors. But that program has been rolled back, so the agency reportedly isn't sure how it's now supposed to adjust its operations. On a call yesterday, sources told news outlets like Reuters and the Wall Street Journal that the new FEMA leader said he didn't even realize the U.S. had a hurricane season. Now the agency, though, is saying he was joking. But the Journal previously reported the leader had also been surprised at the scope of his agency's mission. FEMA's number 2 official resigned late last month, saying in a message to staff, quote, "Everyone has a line and I have reached mine." She went on to say the current approach has been done recklessly. In the past, President Trump has said states could do a better job administering disaster relief money and rebuilding more affordably. And there was some talk about ending the agency altogether. But for now, the White House says, quote, "FEMA is laser-focused on disaster response and protecting the American people." This hurricane season is expected to be even more active than usual. It lasts through the end of November. Tulsa, Oklahoma's first Black mayor unveiled the first large-scale plan meant specifically to benefit descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre. That's the 1921 attack on the Greenwood District, or what was then known as Black Wall Street. A white mob killed hundreds of people and left homes and businesses destroyed. Well, now Tulsa Mayor Monroe Nichols has announced what he's calling the Greenwood Trust. The charitable initiative has a goal of securing $105 million, with most of the funding committed by this time next year. For now, it won't offer direct cash payments to descendants or the last 2 survivors still alive. Instead, most of the money will go toward improving buildings and revitalizing the neighborhood. Mayor Nichols says it doesn't require approval from City Council. The council would need to sign off if any city assets get transferred to the trust, but the mayor says that's unlikely. Meanwhile, other communities are still considering paying reparations to address a history of racism. But a large segment of the U.S. population opposes that idea, with some arguing they are discriminatory against non-Black Americans. That's partly why Tulsa's mayor doesn't like to use the term reparations, saying it's too politically charged. Instead, he characterizes his plan as a, quote, road to repair. More than 100 celebrities from across the entertainment industry have gotten together in support of a serious cause. They include Ariana Grande, Pedro Pascal, Daniel Radcliffe, Sabrina Carpenter, Nathan Lane, Christina Aguilera, Dwayne Wade, and many more across movies, music, sports, comedy, fashion, book publishing, and so on. They all signed a letter calling on President Trump to protect funding for an LGBTQ youth crisis service. It comes in response to an internal budget document that showed the White House plans to get rid of specialized services for LGBTQ+ youth who contact the National Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. The nonprofit group that responds to roughly half of those calls is the Trevor Project, and it says the proposal to cut those specialized services devastating life-threatening consequences. So it organized the letter and is keeping it open, meaning the list of names will continue to be updated. So far, no comment from the White House. One of the biggest names in podcasting is calling it quits. Marc Maron ended his iconic podcast, WTF, after 16 years, telling listeners, quote, "We're burnt out." But he also said, "We are utterly satisfied with the work we've done." Since 2009, when the podcast genre was new, Maron has recorded from his garage studio, interviewing everyone from former President Obama to rock star Keith Richards to comedian Carol Burnett. He actually spoke to Robin Williams about suicide a few years before his death from suicide. That episode was inducted into the Library of Congress's National Recording Registry, which noted that, quote, Marc Maron's popularity has helped to legitimize the podcast as a media format. It's one of the most streamed and downloaded podcasts around. But Maron says after speaking with his producer, Brendan McDonald, they both realized they're done. This week, Maron has a new show out called Stick, and next week, the Tribeca Film Festival will premiere a documentary about him called Are We Good? YouTube's biggest creator plans to offer fans a behind-the-scenes look at his media empire, and the venture will help raise millions of dollars for charity. Mr. Beast says the first 40 donors who make $100,000 gifts to his registered nonprofit will get an exclusive weekend on the set of his reality competition series, Beast Games. Mr. Beast, whose real name is Jimmy Donaldson, wrote on X that he has some big charity projects in mind, so he's hoping the offer will help make them happen. Already, Donaldson has a Beast Philanthropy channel that helps fund charitable work. Donaldson's reality show Beast Games was just renewed for 2 more seasons on Amazon Prime Video. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Quince. For Father's Day, I've got my own dad and my husband to shop for, so I'm glad Quince makes it easy to find gifts that actually feel thoughtful without making it really stressful. Simple and solid and great options for everyone. For example, my husband loves a stylish yet comfortable pair of shorts for the summer, so I'm finding some great quality options on Quince that I think he'll love. And I always appreciate that no matter what I get from Quince, everything is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find from similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury pieces without the crazy markups. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. For the dads who deserve better than basic, Quince has you covered. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. Now back to Trivia Tuesday. And today's trivia question is, what's underneath the U.S. Capitol? Listen again next Tuesday for the answer and explanation. As for last week's trivia question, which country banned time travel in movies? The answer is China. Chinese media authorities outlawed time travel in films and TV shows back in 2011, saying the sci-fi notion disrespects history. But that's not all that's banned in China. For example, it outlawed depictions of smoking, drinking, fighting, and other behavior that's considered unhealthy. Homosexuality and cleavage are also banned. Plus, guidelines in the last decade have said shows and movies should refrain from anything that expresses overt admiration for Western lifestyles or jokes about Chinese traditions. They've also reportedly been told to avoid putting stars, billionaires, or internet celebrities on pedestals and to not sensationalize private relationships or family disputes. So that rules out a lot of shows and movies in one of the largest TV and movie markets in the world. Well, thank you so much for joining us and getting caught up on the news today. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest to know. Until then, have a great day.